I got into a Genesis. This is luxury. Whether it's a sleek G70 or the GV80 with that third row, these are high-end vehicles with payments that actually make sense. Go see Michael. Tell him Sid sent you. Genesis of Brooklyn. Find him at genesisofbrooklyn.com.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Just got nervous. I just got this nervous pang from my son before I talked to Tacopina, my best buddy for 48 years. My little boy Gabriel is taking the SATs tomorrow morning. He's been doing great on his practice tests. I mean, great. Big scores, 13, 1400s. And there's one school in particular he'd like to go to. We want him to go. And it's not in New York. And he needs a certain score to get it. He's been getting those scores on his practice test, but tomorrow it's no longer exhibition games. It's not preseason. It counts. So, Gaby, I know you're in school. You're not listening, although who knows? Good luck tomorrow, son. I'm very proud of you. I love you. Proud of my daughter, too. She's doing great work with Idala, Ava. But my son, big day tomorrow. So, SATs. And, I didn't get a very good score on my SATs. I didn't need it. I just needed 1,000 to get into Miami. And I got a 10-10. So, I went down to Coral Gables. How about you, Joe? You went to a great college, Skidmore University. Did you do well on your SATs?
I was okay. I was more focused on the hockey part of it, and then that's how I got into Skidmore. Really.
Well, did you get a full paid hockey scholarship to Skidmore?
Yeah. I mean, as much as they could give for a D2 school, but yes, as much as you can get, I did. So it was. It wasn't the SAT scores that got me into Skidmore, put it that way. But I was saving the best for last from an academic standpoint.
Well, listen, you and I were never great when it came to taking tests for academics. In fact, I tell this story all the time. We went to Poly Prep, this really expensive, school, ritzy school. All the mob kids go there. And, so they have something called the Polyglot. And that is the annual yearbook, and it's a beautiful book, actually, And then they have the president of the class, whatever. They take these polls, like who's most likely to succeed and who is going to do this, who do that. So I forget if it was the 5th grade or the 6th grade. They had who is least likely to succeed. This is a true story. Joe's laughing. Who is least likely to succeed? And it was a tie. It was a tie between Joseph Tacopina and Sid Rosenberg. You know what I say now? Blow me.
I want the addendum on that, because as long as they could put an addendum where it'll say that I now teach at Harvard Law School, Forbes magazine named me the top lawyer in the United States of America.
Pretty good.
And I'm the United States Army Ambassador. I mean, I'll take that addendum because that just goes to show you, impossible is nothing. And if you put your mind to something, you can do it. So, yeah, I was a late bloomer. You were a late bloomer.
Oh, yeah.
At 14, I wasn't really ready to blossom yet, but that's okay, Sid. We hit our stride when we need to hit our stride.
Right. They say better late than never. That's the case. I do want to ask you about Comey. So I had Greg Jarrett, who loves you. He loves you. He was on the other day. He's the legal analyst for Fox News. And I introduced the whole Comey story by saying, I know it's silly. I swear. I know it's silly. I think it's very smart for Todd Blanche to do it because Trump had enough of Pam Bondi, whether it was, Epstein, or she wasn't putting away all the bad guys that Trump couldn't stand, like Letitia James or Jim Comey. So Blanche is doing all those things that Bondi didn't. And when you think about the names that you've been hearing to take over that job full-time, whether it's Jeanine Pirro or Harmeet Dillon or Lee Zeldin mostly, Blanche, I think, has put himself in a position where he's going to keep this job. He's going to keep it, and he's going to do it by making President Trump happy. So I think going after Comey does that more than the real opportunity to get him legally. But Greg Jarrett said, well, slow down. That second charge, that's a possibility. He said, don't bet on it, but it's a possibility. What are your thoughts on the whole Jim Comey arrest?
Look, you just hit the nail on the head. Todd, look, if you accept this role, you have to know what you're signing up for. And Todd understood what he's signing up for. Todd's a dear friend of mine. I love Todd Blanche. Todd, I think, would be the best choice for Attorney General because he has what it takes. He's ridiculously smart. He's measured. He's not excitable. He doesn't get flustered. He doesn't get, the Attorney General is different. He's not the president. He doesn't have to throw bombs at people. He doesn't have to call reporters, ignorant or whatever. Todd is class, and he does it well. And he's also very smart. And look, he's a former federal prosecutor. He and I were co-counsel on one of the president's cases, and we became very good friends since then. And so I will tell you, I'm supposed to see him next week.
Wow.
He's the right guy, but part of this is you sign up for this job, you have to understand what you're doing, and if you don't, follow your boss's wishes, this is not a normal administration when it comes to that. So let's be real. The Justice Department normally had its own sort of operational protocol, not so much now, and we know that, and it's no one's trying to hide it, right? That's the good thing about it. There's a breath of fresh air in the sense that there's no one hiding behind what it is or what it isn't, and so Todd knows that. And as far as the Comey case, look, Todd had that was obviously something that weighed very heavily on the president's mind, and I think one of the reasons Pam Bondi no longer sits in that chair anymore, and so I think Todd had to do it. It's a tough case. Let's be real. It is a
tough case, but again, he put the seashells together to say 86-47. We know 86 is get rid of. It's even a tougher case, I guess, when you consider they've already done it and it failed.
They've done it and it failed. And don't forget, in this instance, the Secret Service interviewed Comey twice over the phone and in person, and they closed the file. And they didn't think there was any threat, and Comey took it down. It's going to be hard to convince a jury that subsequently, even though the Secret Service put this away and said there's no threat, and Comey took it down and said, no, 86 to me means to get rid of. Doesn't mean murder. It means get rid of. I remember, when someone, I was on a trip once, a school trip, not Polly, but it was a summer thing, and some person shoplifted from a store in Disneyland, and she was removed from the property from Disneyland, and she was 86th. That was the first time I ever heard that phrase. Right. I was a kid. Right. That's what 86. I mean, so 86 has a lot of different meanings. So it's not solely true. If 86 meant assassinate, that'd be a different argument. Yep. Seashells. I've never seen a federal case where the entire evidence is based on seashells. This will be interesting. But look, I think the purpose was to get him under charges again and to push forward, and that's it. I don't think this is the case that I don't think either thinks this is the greatest case ever.
So. No, look, and you've represented President Trump twice and did a great job. I thought a really good job with Eugene Carroll. And the Bragg case, too. So you guys have nice history. I know he's, every now and then, I guess you still correspond. I don't know for sure, but I would bet that's the case. Yes. Okay. So do you believe, Joseph, that they try to kill him again? You believe it?
When you say they, Sid, I'm really not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just not.
No, when I say they, I'm not talking about Iran or me either. I'm talking about the Democrats. I'm talking about Trump haters. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not talking about George Soros. Every time there's a protest or a rally, it's not. There's a lot of losers out there who can't wait to do stuff like that. So I'm with you on that.
A lot of losers, right? So when you just said the word the Democrats, I don't think this guy represents all. I don't think the Democrats got together and said, "Okay, you go try and kill him." No. And some lunatic who obviously is a hater. And I don't know. It's weird. The whole thing was weird. Obviously, thank God he never got close. If that was really your goal, do what this guy did, because he was never going to get close. But I don't think there was any major conspiracy behind it. It's just another mentally ill individual.
Yeah, he's a loser. Yeah, of course. I mean, look at his plan. I mean, there's a lot of people bashing the Secret Service. Okay, fine, he got past the initial thing, perimeter, he ran through the metal detector. He never came close to the president. They did what they had to do, and the truth is, if you really study this, it's less Secret Service and more the venue. You can't have it in a hotel where there's 3,000 guests, literally on the top of the floor right above you just milling around. That's the biggest issue with this, not the Secret Service. But it's become very cool these days to bash the Secret Service. I told you President Trump texted me Sunday morning. I texted him first. I said, glad you're okay, but you saw the text, right? He said, thanks to the Secret Service again today. Now, he wasn't saying that after Butler, Pennsylvania, when he got shot. But again today, he thanked the Secret Service. So you're a guy, you're around Army guys and these types of people. It was fine, right?
Secret Service is great. I mean, listen, I've been around them when I was representing the president, I was getting death threats that for a second I didn't lose a second of sleep over, because most people who give you death threats via email, are sitting in their mom's basement in their underwear typing, "I'm going to kill you." Okay, I didn't think for a second they were valid. Okay, but they're duty bound to act on those sort of things. So I had a Secret Service detailed for a little while because of those death threats. Yeah. And these guys are the most professional. I mean, they're terrific, and they always put themselves in harm's way at all times. So it's walk in those shoes for 5 minutes, please. Walk in those shoes for 5 minutes when you're the one who has to put yourself between a bullet and a person. Okay, they do a great job, and the president's not one to give people compliments if he doesn't really think they're doing a good job. So the fact that he's saying that is something that I think speaks.
Well, he's kind. He's kind to his people, and he does appreciate that. He's actually a pretty nice guy, President Trump. Talk to me about this. New York is set to pass the most extreme. This one, you can't even make this up. New York is set to pass, from the Post, the most extreme sanctuary policies as Hochul and Albany Dems near an anti-ICE deal. So I talked about this with Brian Kilmeade this morning. Look, I'm a nice guy. Not nice ICE. I'm sorry that Alex Preddy was killed in Minnesota, but he shouldn't have been there. I'm sorry Renee Good was killed in Minnesota. She shouldn't have been there. And the truth is, when you look at the amount of criminals they took off the streets and deported and missing children they found, that number exceeds 7,000. Tom Homan did a tremendous job in Minnesota. All we talk about are two people who, quite frankly, were instigators. They didn't deserve to die, okay? But two people compared to 7,000, and now all these cities are going after ICE like they're the bad guys, especially New York. What in God's name are we doing?
Sid, let's be clear. This so-called sanctuary expansion in New York isn't about compassion, because that's what I read Hochul's comments. Okay, it's about cutting off communication between law enforcement agencies, and that makes people less safe. Period. Game, set, and match. We spent decades after 9/11 breaking down what's called silos between agencies, because we learned the hard way. When cops don't share information, bad things happen. Now Albany wants to rebuild those walls on purpose, right? These policies don't just target bad actors. They create blanket restrictions that tie the hands of the police, even when coordination with federal authorities could stop trafficking, gangs, or repeat offenders, violent offenders. And here's the problem. Criminals don't operate in silos. They exploit them. So when you tell the local police they can't work with federal agents, you're not protecting communities. You're creating these wide gaps that criminals walk right through. So look, you can protect civil rights and still enforce the law, right? That's not controversial. That's common sense. But this thing that Hochul is doing goes way too far. This is politics overriding public safety. And at the end of the day, New Yorkers deserve a system where law enforcement works together, not one where they're legally forced to look the other way. And that's what we have here. It's so damn ridiculous. It's not even funny anymore. So you don't protect communities by cutting off communication between law enforcement.
No,
it's so silly.
No, it's doing the opposite. One more for you. George Orwell's book, 1984, that was, believe it or not, over 40 years ago already, 1984. But, we talked about Big Brother watching you. And now between your phone that's watching you, your license plate, there are even stores now, grocery stores, right? You walk into a grocery store, and they take a palm print or a face print, and right away they've got all your personal information. I don't think people even realize, in fact, I know they don't. They don't even realize sometimes they walk into a store how they're really how their privacy is being invaded. They've got no idea. So I think it's great that the Supreme Court is going after Big Brother. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Sid, me too. I mean, this is one of those rare cases. The Supreme Court this week's going to decide this. One of those rare cases where the Supreme Court isn't just interpreting the law. It's just really deciding what freedom looks like in the digital age, okay? So to me, if the government can track your face, it can track your life. This is about control, not convenience, okay? We're one court ruling away from turning every American into a walking barcode. Okay, wow. It's crazy, absolutely crazy what you can do now. So let me try and explain this the way someone could understand it. This case is about one thing, the Supreme Court case that will be decided this week, whether the government can track you without you ever knowing it. Okay, we're literally watching the Constitution collide with 21st century surveillance technology. And so the issue isn't crime fighting. It's how far the government can go without a warrant. So technology has now completely outpaced the law. Courts now have to decide, is consistent digital tracking considered a search? Like, the Constitution doesn't change just because technology does. But just imagine, once they get your face, look, there was this whole thing with Madison Square Garden, right? Or any of those properties. You walk in there, they know when you go to the bathroom, whatever you buy there. Like, if you've said a bad thing about Jim Dolan in the past, the security's all over you in there. And this is unlike wiretaps and searches. This happens without your knowledge. So Americans can be tracked in public spaces in real time. So, and there are massive databases that already exist with millions of faces. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So there's over half of the United States adults already have facial recognition systems in place. So it's to me, it's too much. It's scary, and it's Big Brother like on steroids. It really is.
So what is the Supreme Court hear this already? Where are we with that?
They've heard it. They're going to decide it this week. They're going to decide this week. Look, here's the argument. On the government side, it says, well, it helps stop crime, it finds suspects, it prevents terrorism. But on the privacy side, it creates this permanent tracking system of innocent Americans.
Yeah.
So, it's the same old debate, right? But now we have AI watching every single move we make. And the Supreme Court decision will likely set national precedent. I mean, this is it. This could determine whether warrants are required, how long data can be stored, whether mass surveillance is constitutional. So this isn't just about criminals. It's about every American walking down the street every single day.
I got a friend, Vic, who says medical info is they could read that from your palm. Medical info. They can read from your palm. I don't know how that's okay when we don't know about it. Look, I like surveillance, and I want to find the criminals and all that stuff. But, if I'm going to the store, I know, but if I'm going to the store to buy bananas, leave me alone,
But, this case is going to decide, really, if privacy still exists in public or if the idea is that it's officially dead. This is it. Because I'm telling you, our founding fathers never imagined facial recognition.
That's
right?
crazy.
But they absolutely feared unchecked governmental power, and we're getting close. We are getting close.
You know what? I'm pissed off now because to get into my cell phone, besides putting in my 6-digit code, I do use the facial recognition thing. I may shut that off today now that I'm so pissed off about this. If the Supreme Court doesn't go our way, I'm going to shut off facial recognition on my phone. How about that?
No, you won't, because then you have to type in the damn thing.
I know, it's a pain in the ass. I know. No, but it is scary. That is a scary story.
Your phone, it listens to everything you say.
I know, man. I know.
There's all of a sudden, like, I'll be passing something. I'll be like, "Oh, there's an army, bag in the store to your left." I'm like, "How do you know I like anything to do with the army? Like, why are you giving me that information?"
So are you telling me that every time Justin watches porn, which is often throughout the day, people know that?
Of course, and it's like,
Justin, do you hear this, Justin? And he puts crazy stuff.
Justin asked me about that. He's like, "How do I protect my identity when I'm watching porn?" And I told him, "Justin,
I needed to know.
You have to hire me the way Sid used to hire me, Bernie.
I can't afford you, Joe. I cannot afford you.
No. I'll give you. You get the friends and family.
Okay, fine.
Leave Justin alone. He's a star.
We're laughing about it, but it's a very serious topic. Seriously, that's not cool. So I hope the Supreme Court wins next week, and we'll get you back on to talk about all of that. Joe Tacopina, you're amazing. Never disappoint. Another great appearance today. I love you, pal. Thank you.
Okay, I love you guys.
Take care. That was great. Joe Tacopina. Some serious stuff we discussed today between the mayor's race and Supreme Court and the sanctuary city policies and a whole bunch of good stuff. Great job by Joe Tacopina.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Let me tell you about ProHealthConnect.com. It's transforming healthcare payments. providing retailers a seamless process for over-the-counter and healthy benefit programs. By connecting retailers, health plans, and payment processors, ProHealth Connect creates one powerful, unified network. They empower independent grocers and pharmacies to accept health benefit cards without changing how they do business. With over 10,000 locations nationwide, helping more than 1.3 million people access the care and nutrition they need. Go to ProHealthConnect.com.
When Mother's Day means celebrating your mom, your wife, maybe even your daughter as a new mom, trust 1-800-Flowers to help you celebrate every important woman in your life. With double blooms from 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a simple way to give beautifully, with colorful blooms that make Mother's Day feel meaningful. For every mom you're celebrating, order with confidence and get double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify.